When you talk about UI-related topics in Angular, the conversation usually turns to custom directives. So let's look at building some custom directives in Angular. To me, custom directives always fall into one of four general categories. The first category of custom directives are the directives that I write that are just fancy includes. That is, instead of using the ng include directive to place an HTML template into the DOM, I'll write a custom directive to load that template, and use the directive in my markup to place the template into the DOM. These types of directives are the easiest to create, and I'll show you an example in just a minute. The second category is what I call a declarative directive. This is a directive that requires some interaction. It will contain elements that respond to mouse clicks, for example, and it usually offers some sort of API for customization. But most of the work can be done by using existing directives in the template file itself, and this kind of directive is also relatively easy to build. I'll show you an example in this module for this also. The third category is what I call the imperative directive. This directive mostly uses imperative code in the link function or the directive controller, and it's the kind of directive I think is the hardest to write. Just because usually when you're starting to write a lot of imperative code in a directive, you're also going to use a lot of Angular APIs that just aren't used in day-to-day Angular programming. APIs that compile the DOM, they set up watches, they kick off a digest, those types of APIs. I'll show you an example of this kind of directive in this module also. And just to let you know, many directives can be a blend of declarative and imperative, although I try to lean towards declarative for reasons we'll see in just a bit. And the last category of directive is the form-related directive. These types of directives typically need to interact with the built-in ng-model controller or ng-form controller, and they handle user input and validation. We'll look at these types of directives in the next module when we focus on forms. But let's kick things off for now by looking at a templated directive, what I call the fancy include.